All right, good evening. We're going to call the Hermiston City Council meeting to order for Monday, August 26th, 2024, with a declaration of a quorum. We are going to excuse Councilor Barone and Councilor Duran. They're both supposed to be here, but late. Today was the first, I think, in staff, open house, school, something tonight. And so it was supposed to go till 7 o'clock, so they'll be here just a little bit late. All right, please join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone. So, Mr. Smith, do we have any changes this evening to the agenda?
No changes.
Okay. Up first on our agenda is presentation on a feasibility study of Regional Health, Wellness, and Aquatics Center.
So, as all of you know, this item has been on our goals for a number of years, and we haven't made a lot of, distinct progress as we've been talking about it, potential partners, those types of things. And in our last goal setting session, the council kind of came to the, let's really try something to see if it'll work, go through some more effort to bring partners and have a deeper discussion about this, and then kind of make a go decision, and then not just have it hanging around as a possible project for a long time. So what I did is reached out to the Wenaha group to talk to see if they could help be kind of a third-party facilitator as we kind of have that conversation with regional partners and things like that. And so tonight is to give you an update on what I'm doing as far as going through this process. And so I'm going to turn that over to Wenaha Group to start, and then we'll go from there.
Welcome. Thank you. We can pull that one microphone down there too. Yeah, that'll work. That way you guys will have one. Who's going to kick it off? Scott?
I can certainly kick it off, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity. So thank you, everybody, members of the council, Mr. Mayor, city manager and staff. So thank you. My name is Scott Rogers. I'm with the Wenaha Group based out of the Pendleton office, and I'm joined with my colleagues this evening.
I'm Heath Gardner, Wenaha Group as well, and I'm the project executive based out of the Kennewick office.
And Cassie Hibbert, Senior Project Manager out of our Pendleton office.
Yeah, well, thank you. This evening, actually, my colleague Cassie is going to kind of walk us through some slides here specific to this process. But with that, Cassie, I'll turn it over.
Okay, next slide, please. Oh, next slide, please.
It's on a clapper, I think, so. There we go.
Okay, well, we're going to take a look at three things tonight. This is not a super long presentation. First off, we'll do some introductions and talk a little bit about who Wenaha Group as a firm is. Second, we're going to have city staff help us out, just talking about the background on the Health, Wellness, and Aquatics Center, or the HWAC or WAC, or we're still trying to figure out how to say it, so that we're all up to speed on the work that the city has done to date leading to this point. And then third, we're going to take a look at the process that we're going to be pursuing over the next couple of months to really get this thing out of the gate and restarted for the city.
Perfect. Well, we just want to introduce our company a little bit. Some of you know us, some of you may not. We're a Native American owned owners rep firm, construction management consulting firm. So we help mostly public entities or tribal government entities build construction projects. So, and we help do the planning and pre-construction and set up for those projects as well, which is what we're talking about tonight. We started 14 years ago now, 14 years ago now. And we have had a presence in Hermiston for the entire time. We love Hermiston. The first big break for the company was Hermiston Schools in 2008, the 2008 bond measure, I believe. I'm lucky to hold the title of employee number one for Winha. So I was the first employee, and we've had a continuous presence in Hermiston for the whole time we've been a company, and so we love it here, and we've got you surrounded. We're coming up from Pendleton or down from Kennewick. We either way is about the same. We're driven by our guiding principles. Anybody that knows us knows that we're big on our guiding principles. They're on our business cards. They're what guide us. We're really strong on that. And just so you know, kind of what we're up to, obviously we've done a lot of school work for Hermiston schools, a couple of bond measures and a lot of things in between. So we've been in every single one of your schools in town. Either built them from scratch or remodeled them or did some kind of modification to them. We also are doing work for the city of Hermiston right now. Scott, we're doing the library.
Yeah, so
And-
we're just about ready to start on your library renovation project. For those that might be familiar, we did the tenant improvement downstairs to accommodate your IT staff. And then in addition to that, we're just wrapping up improvements at the Harkenrider Senior Center. So.
So, City of Hermiston, we're already working for you. And also notably, we did the Boardman Recreation Facility, aquatics facility there. And we're currently doing the Pasco Public Facilities District aquatics facility that is going to start construction at the end of this year. We do have a little bit of experience in this realm with aquatics and recreation facilities. And that's kind of who we are.
So a little bit about what our respective role is. So again, you see three of us from the Winaha group here, Cassie, Heath, and myself. So our role during this process, Cassie is kind of the driver, I'll just say. So she's, Heath and I are more in a support role. So typically Cassie's going to be out in front leading this group, kind of working with your sub-consultant team, working with your representatives from Mr. Smith and his respective team. The role that Heath and I play is a lot of coordination with other outside consultants. So given both Heath is working with the Pasco Public Facilities District currently, I've worked with the Boardman Park and Rec District in the past. So given that both of us have some familiarity with recreation and athletic centers, it's great for us. We're kind of coming in to help. Again, Cassie is very focused on sort of the public interface, working with the group that she'll kind of speak to here, the HWAC task force, and developing and sort of managing that process. The role that Heath and I play is really in the kind of the technical support role, more on the construction side, and bringing some of the other consultants in. So again, Cassie will be driving the task force process, and then a lot of the meetings, Heath and I are going to be kind of there in the support role as kind of, quote, the subject matter expert. So again, familiarity with construction process, public procurement, and kind of the elements to ensure that the city's in compliance with public procurement policies, but also kind of the lessons learned in the market conditions. What's the market doing now? What are we seeing in the market? And given some of the familiarity, again, with projects that we've completed in the past, as well as what we're doing currently, we can help kind of provide some real-time visibility into the construction cost elements of it. We have other subject matter experts, and this is, I think, key for any type of facility such as this, a recreation and aquatic center. Operational cost modeling, getting the right architect, a firm that has done similar facilities in the past, making sure, again, I think for the city in particular, and the other stakeholders that you're intending to reach out to, cost estimators, right? We want to be very thoughtful and deliberate with how we're approaching this, both from sort of an operational lens, but also kind of the initial startup cost, and then the ongoing costs of operations we think are key for that. We think holistically about projects with our design and construction management experience. As Heath alluded to, we've had the honor and privilege of working in Hermiston for a long period of time. We want to be thoughtful in ensuring we're here and committed, right? We don't just kind of fly in and fly out. So we want to make sure that as we're putting projects forward from the inception, that they can be successfully implemented and built, but also that they can be maintained and operated. I'll just be candid. We enjoy our presence in Hermiston, and we want to make sure that, again, we're present here, and it's not just kind of quote another job. We're committed to the success of Hermiston. And then finally, I think we're an impartial third party and facilitator, right? So I think it's key, and Cassie will speak to this. There are no foregone conclusions. We're here to help support a process. Cassie, I would just say this is what she does, is help facilitate public engagement processes on behalf of public agencies. Bringing a group of collective citizens together. here's the issue that we're trying to solve, and then helping to kind of facilitate that process. But it is a very community-driven process, and that's one of the things I think Cassie does an exceptional job at. But our role is to really help facilitate and support the process itself.
All right, so now, city staff kind of give you a background on different ways that this idea of a health and wellness aquatics center has come up. So in 2016, if you remember, we did a Livable Hermiston committee, and this kind of grew out of the Hermiston Futures Task Force efforts that had been done in the past. And that effort came up with 4 priorities: an indoor aquatic center, downtown revitalization, youth family activity center, and parks, trails, and open space. Those are the things that, and I was rereading the report a little bit, and it talks about 2,000 different kind of public engagement, 2,000 different people engaged in this process in different ways as we went through that. Then from a city council standpoint, this was in as far back as 2018 and 19. It was a goal in our goal setting session. Then in 2018, we hired an architecture firm to just give us a general idea of what a facility might cost at that time, as well as give us an analysis on what it would cost to operate it and what the subsidy would need to be from the city standpoint. Because, frankly, these don't ever pay for themselves. This is a community asset, and the city needs to be supportive in some way. Now, I'll turn the time over to Brandon to talk a little bit about the parks planning process.
Yeah, in 2019, we did the Hermiston Parks Recreation Open Spaces Needs Assessment, which then led into our 2020 master plan there. And that comprehensive needs assessment, 60% of those respondents said indoor aquatics and swimming was #1 priority. That followed up with our 2040 Community Action Plan, which they took information from 2021 outreach at events and such. And the #1 goal for a safe and healthy Hermiston was to build an indoor recreation and aquatic center. Along with this, we are at the tail end of the season for the aquatic center. Labor Day weekend is our last weekend. We get numerous asks: when is an indoor facility coming? When can I keep swimming? How can I keep swimming? So it's always on the top of mind for those who want to keep recreating throughout the winter months.
And so this is kind of our initial take on what this task force would look like. Now, it would be a city manager task force, so that has different kind of requirements and things like that versus something that the council appoints. And so these are potential stakeholders that some of these we've had conversations with, and they've shown interest. Others maybe not so much, but we see that they might have an interest in being a partner in this type of a project in our community and in our region. And you can see on the diagram on the right, really is you have the task force, we have Winneha and the city kind of providing a staff role, and then some sub-consultants that would help us with costs and ideas about operations and things like that. So.
Thank you. So I'd like to compliment the city of Hermiston on the great foundation that's been set for us to jump into the next process and work to do, because, we're hearing that this is a need in the community. People are really interested in it, and that's a great springboard for being able to take it forward to the next step. So part of our role is to keep the momentum going on this and to facilitate the committee and also help them to decision-making by bringing them the right information at the right time. So we've just went through the potential stakeholders on the committee, but I'm going to shift and now start calling it a task force. So the role of the task force is basically to meet 5 times between September, so next month, and then June of 2025. And we'll see what this looks like more specifically on a schedule on the next slide. And then their overall charge is first to review your existing aquatic center. What are its facility needs and its condition? It recently had a facility assessment done, and what's working there and what's not working there. Second, they'll study different types of health, wellness, and aquatic center facilities, including options for program offerings within those type of facilities. They'll study various site locations, and we know that there'll be a lot of input and interest on where this facility might potentially go. Very important, the committee will take a look at operational funding models. We know that it is just as important to figure out how you're going to keep the doors open and pay for the operational expenses on this type of facility as it is to go out there and build it. But they'll also consider options for capital funding on the facilities. They'll consider cost estimates for the capital construction. And then very importantly, we'll also put this out for an opportunity for community feedback to inform this task force's final recommendations to the city manager. We want to make sure we give your community a chance to input on key program elements and key site locations that are going to be of importance to them. And then the final deliverable for the task force is to make a recommendation to the city manager on a preferred operational approach, partnerships, and capital construction options for a facility. So I know this is a little small on this slide, but let's kind of take a look at what that charge would look like when we overlay it on a schedule. So right now here, we're in August 2024 on the far left side of the chart. We're meeting with City Council to talk through what this process timeline is going to look like. Also, following this meeting, we're going to start reaching out to the potential stakeholders that we reviewed on the previous slide. So then in September, the idea is to have a kickoff work session with the task force. And that first work session is going to be primarily focused on what I like to call building the shared knowledge base. So let's make sure we're all on the same page with the information before we go out and try to decide what we want to do. So we'll get introduced as the committee. We'll talk through the process and the schedule, the same way we're doing here. And then we'll have a couple of our subject matter experts come in to present to the committee. So first, we'll have the firm that did the facility assessment of your existing pool come and present to the task force on that. We don't want to completely reinvent the wheel from the investment that you made on your 2018 work. So we're re-engaging with a couple of those same consultants, Ballard King, which has a specialty in doing market analysis and operational studies for pools. We're going to re-engage with them, get them back at the table, and have them get the committee up to speed on how does the operational funding for pools work? And as was mentioned earlier, pools and aquatic centers don't really tend to fully pay for themselves. They have to be subsidized in some way. So we need to go into that realistically and be sure that we're aware of that from our conversations from, the first meeting. We'll also have the architect that was engaged in 2018, just do a recap of the work that was done then, again, so we're not starting with scratch. And we'll also look at any additional information that is needed at that point. So following that kickoff in September, then we'll start talking about, okay, what are we interested in exploring here? And this is really strategically focused in the second meeting to really dial in on that operational funding model. Again, how are you going to keep the doors open on this facility first, right? And part of this is going to be some partnership discussions with your regional partners as well, and understanding what everybody can bring to the table. The November meeting is intended to focus on the capital funding piece of the puzzle. And in the background here, we'll also be doing due diligence on potential sites for the facility, doing some very preliminary high-level designs that we can also put some cost estimates to, so we really understand the cost of your capital project. We're going to take a break during December because that's a pretty busy time of the year, bring the committee back together in January, review the high-level designs and cost estimates with them, start talking about some partnership opportunities, and prepare some draft recommendations and a progress report. Then the plan is to come back to see you, the City Council, in February with a progress report on what the committee has done so far. And then we're going to launch out and get some community feedback. So I promise that getting the community's opinion, especially on program options and on site options, is important. We'll do that March through May of 2025. Bring that community feedback back to the committee in June. Say, hey, what did we hear out here? Do we need to modify? Do we need to tweak things? Which one of these is our preferred options? Settle on some final recommendations. Then the committee will make their final recommendations to the city manager. And then we'll come back to you in July with, I would say, still a progress report, but more of a final report at that point. And you can see the kind of note there in black. That's when the task force's work will end with their report to the city manager. And that's kind of the go, no go that was mentioned at the beginning, whether or not you want to proceed with next steps on actually constructing and committing to a facility, or if you want to basically conclude the discussion on doing a health, wellness, and aquatics center. So that kind of lays it out over the schedule. And I think our next slide is just to open it up for questions. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott and Heath, Cassie. Good to see you guys again. Appreciate you joining and partnering with us. Council, any questions, comments, thoughts? Yeah, Councilor Duran.
I'm really excited to be able to hear the conversations about the health, wellness, and aquatic center. I think, gosh, for a long time since I think I was asked to join the Hermiston Futures Task Force, which has been ages ago. That was one of the things that kept surfacing in the conversations that we had. So I know that there's a lot of interest in the community, and I'm so glad that we are also looking back at some of the folks that sat in on the conversations prior, so that you get their experience and we can build on what we currently have. So I'm very excited that there is going to be such a task force and that we will also be seeking community feedback. I think it's important, especially because if, we're all going to be investing in it and we want to know exactly how the community feels about it. So I'm excited. And sorry that I was late, but I was working at the high school, so I just came straight from there.
Yeah, I think it was part of the original aquatics facility, was an indoor facility, and that was kind of axed, so it's been a conversation in the community for a long time. So it's been a while, yeah. There were some designs put together, and I think we paid architect to kind of scope some stuff for us. Is that going to be brought back up as part of the conversation, or are we going to look at it again? Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. So ALSC Architects, who was your partner in the 2018 effort, we'll have them back at the table as part of this process. And in that first committee or task force meeting, I should call it, we're going to have them present that 2018 design so we know exactly where we left off. There's just no need to reinvent the wheel there unless we need to.
Yeah, well, and, having partners at the table that have built some regional facilities and know, the marketplace that we're in, I think helps. Some probably lessons learned in both of those experiences too, the Morrow County one, as well as, the newer one in Pasco. So that will be valuable updates to this as well. Other comments?
I have a
Yeah.
question.
Councilor Lynn?
I noticed that you said there's some partners that you're going to be talking to. Have any of them committed, committed to how much they're willing to donate toward this project?
We've had different conversations with different partners and numbers have kind of been, tossed around. But right now we had the latest estimate we have is 6 years old. And in the construction climate that we're in right now, it's really hard to kind of use that as a solid number. So we really don't have a solid number from anybody. But that's kind of this part of this process is to figure out who wants to be a partner and how much do they want to be a partner?
Yeah, I think the last time that this was real seriously taken attempt at, some of those partners were in better positions, and then COVID happened, right?
Right.
Kind of destroyed our progress and destroyed an infrastructure. Actually, the healthcare system just tanked. And,
Right.
We're looking forward to having Good Shepherd as a good community partner, and I think that kind of set things sideways for a lot of years. So bringing everybody back around the table and see how much commitment, I think makes a lot of sense.
One note that I don't know if we said that we didn't reiterate, but from that last study that you did, Ballard King, part of their report was essentially they laid out that like, hey, it's unlikely to be feasible as a Hermiston only objective. And that's just a reminder that that's what it said. So that's why Byron is trying to get us to pull these people together and figure out like, okay, everybody wants this. What do we get? How can we work together to make it happen?
Yeah, Councilor Linton.
Question. How about, are the other towns like Umatilla, Echo, and Stanfield, are they going to be involved with finance?
Yeah, they're listed as a partner. We don't know exactly if or how much that they might be a financial partner, but we at least want them at the table, just because we think this is a regional effort and that makes the most sense financially as in other ways as well.
I guess the only question I had, Cassie, on the timeline has to do with the January to June date. I can't remember what I did yesterday, let alone 5 months later. So I'm worried that that timeframe might be too long. So can you speak to that?
Sure, the timeframe from a city council reporting perspective or from a committee
Yeah,
content
the committee perspective.
perspective?
Yeah, keeping the momentum going.
Yeah, I think, one of the things that we can do to mitigate that is we build these meetings really strategically where they tend to follow each other. And we always start them off with a recap of what we did last time so that we're keeping everybody in the loop and ready to go for the next one. During that community feedback period, which is just absolutely crucial, is to get out there and really kind of test the ideas of the task force. We can do progress updates with them to keep them engaged until we pull everybody back together and say, what did we hear from the community feedback?
I just want to make sure we hang on to everybody as the summer opens up and everybody's lost to the wind. So yeah.
Also, Cassie is continuously telling me that you can't rush community input. So if we do a whole process and then we're like, oh, we spent these months putting all this together and then we asked the community for a week.
Yeah.
Then it
I
doesn't
think
really.
3 months is probably appropriate. So.
And I do know Counselor Peterson had a question, but I was just going to comment if I may. I think following up on that, typically, the task force may have a question or a set of requests. And I totally understand your question. I also think there's some validity. We may need 3 weeks to a month to pull a cost estimate together or vet 2 or 3 different options that the task force has kind of challenged us with pulling together. So having that time in between those meetings ensures that we're prepared to kind of come and make the most of their time to put information in front of them so that they can help sort of make an informed decision process. So we try to be thoughtful, knowing that we've got a limited window to keep their attention and their engagement. But we also want to be sure that we're turning around data that really is well, sort of crafted and allows them to make good informed decisions and recommendations.
Councilor Peterson.
So something that I'm thinking about is when I think of aquatic center and mentioning the fact that, okay, now Boardman has one, and we hear that Pasco's having one. It's like, okay, so why do we need one here? And so one thing that I think we'll want to keep at the forefront of, as we are engaging with the public is, okay, who is going to benefit and why? Because it's not just going to be the people that take their kids, or the people who want to lap swim. It's the people going through physical therapy.
Yep.
Or the people that want to, do an aquatic dance class for exercise. And it's like, who in the community is going to possibly be impacted by this in a positive way? And that answer should be everybody. Okay, but how? We're going to have to tie this to, the different subgroups of Hermiston and the surrounding area to make it seem like it's worth the while to not like, okay, well, it's a half hour down the road. Okay, but why is it important to have it here? Well, because then the folks from the senior center can come over and have a day.
Yep.
Whereas maybe going to Tri-Cities, that might not be on the table. So we're gonna have to make sure and keep it relevant and tie it directly to who we have. Because as I said, I completely sing for, like a rock when I try and swim. So you're gonna have to sell it to me. But I can see doing it to, get my legs moving.
Yeah, well said.
Other questions, comments, council? Ms. Smith?
Nope, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that you were informed as we start to reach out and form this task force. And again, like the schedule showed, we'll be back giving you updates.
I'm excited about the team you hired. I've worked with them a time or two, so they're good. They deliver. I was on that 2008 bond measure. I was the chair of that committee. I was the board chair at the time. And they delivered a product on time and under budget. So I expect same results this time. No pressure, guys.
No pressure. Thank you for the opportunity.
Good to see you. All right, we're going to move on to our first opportunity in our city council meeting, citizen input on non-agenda items. So if there's anybody in the audience that would like to speak to the city council, not in regard to the items that are on our current agenda, but to anything in general, please come up to the microphone up front to introduce yourself by name and address and direct your comments to me and limit them to less than 5 minutes.
Well, that was okay. I think I have a loud enough voice. Anyway, I've lived here for 35 years. I've lived in my house for 35 years. And in the last 2 years, there's been a stream of water running down my backyard in adjacent to the neighbor that it's coming, from what I've been told. Actually, I've been told both. Hermiston Irrigation District and the city. They're fighting over whose job it is to repair it. And I would just like it fixed, please.
Understood.
It's a big strain. When the water is up and it came from the development up off of Highland, when there are times when the water is so full, running back down the house, it's leaking over into my yard, the house that's to the south of us,
Yeah.
and to the east of us. And it can get this wide, and it's about that deep. So I just noticed it again 2 days ago, and I called, I know what her first name is, but I don't know what her last name is, Annette. And she informed me that she would get somebody up there to shut it off, that it was supposed to be shut off, but I'm not gonna follow them around to figure it out. So I just would like to, some kind of answers as to if it could get fixed.
Byron, do you have their contact information?
Yeah, I missed the names. If you could give me your names again.
Corinne King
Okay.
and Rainey Roberts. 435 Southeast 9th Court in the Highland Hills subdivision. And from my understanding, there's some kind of a irrigation ditch that was enclosed in cement at one time. And there's trees that have been planted, and from what I've been told, the trees have grown in the line. And it is not encased, it's not encased anymore. So it literally is gonna have to be completely redone, would be my guess.
Do you have their number to get a hold of them, talk to them?
Yeah, I think they've reached out to us before.
Okay.
We have their contact. And, and I know it often doesn't move as fast as everyone would like, but that is an area we've been working on and trying to come up with a solution that we can put into place. So it isn't that we've ignored it, but it isn't always as fast as you'd like, I recognize.
Hopefully soon.
Okay,
Thank
thank you.
you.
Thank you. Others? Okay. All right, we're going to move on to the rest of our agenda, the consent calendar. Do we need to pull any of those items from the consent calendar? Not seeing any. Any public comment on consent agenda items A, B, or C? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve consent agenda items A, B, and C?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Counselor McCarthy, seconded by Counselor Primer, that we accept consent agenda items A, B, C as presented. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Public hearings. So we had an economic opportunities analysis update that was going to be scheduled for tonight, but we've rescheduled that.
That's correct. There was just some scheduling items we needed to move around, and so it will be at our next meeting.
September
And
9th.
it was
meeting.
noticed to be tonight, so that's why we had to notify everybody that it
Okay.
was postponed.
All right, we're going to move on to ordinances and resolutions. Ordinance number 2363, mobile food vending amendments. Mr. Smith?
Yeah, Mr. Spencer, did you?
So at the last meeting, we spent a lot of time talking about proposed amendments to the mobile food vending ordinance, and the council agreed that it was okay in the way that it was currently written. So we have brought it back to you with basically unchanged, although I did change the definitions for type 1 mobile vending just after contacting the county health authority. They had some suggestions to make it a little easier for them. So the basic changes to the ordinance remain the same. We are establishing 4 types of licenses: a 30-day license, a 1-year license, event licenses, and licenses for lunch trucks if people wish to just visit the various industrial sites in town. And then we cap the licenses at basically at the level they were at. The type 1 30-day licenses are at 3. The 1-year licenses are at 6. You can have as many events as you want, but they do require 1,000-foot spacing between events, and then the maximum number of type 4 licenses or lunch trucks will be 2. We also have a resolution after this that will set the fee schedule as well.
Okay. Any council questions, comments? Yeah, Counselor Lynn?
We did receive an email about private property, and I think here in, let me see here, page 5, where it says, I think that's where it's at, where it talks about, oh yeah, vendors, excuse me, vendors shall be located entirely on private property, and I think
Mhm.
that's what they're talking about. They were concerned whether or not someone could just come to their yard and pitch up a little cart or put a food truck
Yeah,
property. Can you clarify that, please?
in the testimony that you received, yeah, they inferred that, you know, by saying that the city was saying it could be on private property, that meant you could go on to private property. But if you check under section 103, we require written consent from the property owners before you can set up on that property. So it's not a free-for-all. In order to obtain a license, you have to bring to the city written consent to be on that lot.
Okay, so if someone wanted to put a food plot or something in my backyard, I can just say, yes, they can do it, and they can do it?
If you had a paved parking lot and were zoned commercial, then theoretically, yes, but no, not just anywhere. It has to be in a commercial zone, it has to be on paved parking lot. You have to have enough shared parking to cover the existing use as well as the proposed food truck.
Or what about light industrial? If it's zoned for light industrial?
Light industrial does not accommodate
Okay,
food trucks. Only the lunch truck option can visit industrial sites.
all right.
And then that's only between 11 and 1.
Thank you.
So it has to be approved by the property owner, but it
Mhm.
also has to be approved by the city.
Yes,
And so you're going to look at every application ahead of time and make sure that all those requirements are met. So
that's correct. We take in a lot of calls, you know, oh, I'd like to set up at this location or I'd like to set up at that location. And we encourage people to call before they start approaching property owners because, yeah, it might be a business in a residential zone or something. And then even though it's a business, it's still not permissible.
any other questions by the council? Yes, Counselor Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Spencer. My only question, I think we brought it up, maybe not the last meeting when we talked about this ordinance, but maybe 2 meetings ago about licensures, and I know we have 6 at this point, or we have 6 that we're going to allow. At this point, do we have 3?
At
Is it-
this time, we have 3.
Okay.
Yes.
I guess just for future, maybe bringing it back to the council maybe a year from now, seeing how the food truck, I guess this amendment has gone, if there might be a need for more, and if everything is kind of going up, like it looks good, like the city's happy with it, I'd like to to reevaluate, especially if this does become something popular and the community likes.
Yeah, the council will always have the authority to increase or decrease the number of licenses since this is set by ordinance. In a case like that, what we encourage people to do is, to make the request to the council. I've been on a waiting list, all 6 licensors are allocated, please increase the number. That really ties right back to the discussion you had at the last meeting. Do we want them on every corner across from each other? Do we want it to be a long string? You have the authority in the end to decide how many there will be.
Thank you. I would definitely appreciate if there is a wait list of vendors that are wanting to get a license, to know about that. And again, I'm not wanting to make an arbitrary number of licenses. I'll kind of default that to you, the city planner, to see, I guess, what's appropriate. And also, we obviously want there to be good livability, and that might mean food options, but that also means, as many counselors have expressed, just keep making the city look nice. And so I'm sure we can strike a balance, but I also am curious to see if there's more interest, especially maybe after a year or 2.
Very good.
Thank you.
Any other? Yes, Councilor Peterson?
And that brings to mind one of the reasons why this conversation really got the ball rolling was because of a community member who wanted to get a stand up and going. And here we are now. So for all of Hermiston, yes, we do listen. It just takes a while to get all the i's dotted and t's crossed. But the more that they come and they tell us, hey, yeah, we are on a waiting list, or we'd like to get on the waiting list. How do we make that happen? Or is there something I need to change so that I will be considered someone who can get on the waiting list? But I love the fact actually that this started because a community member said, hey, I want to make something happen. What do we need to do? So kind of cool.
Very good. Any other comments? Any public comment this evening? Okay. So mayor requests first reading of the ordinance be read by title only, calls for a roll call. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Tubby?
First reading by title only of ordinance number 2363, an ordinance amending chapter 116 of the Hermiston Code of Ordinances relating to mobile food vendors.
Is your microphone on?
I don't think it's on. It's on.
Yeah.
Maybe need to
I
get
got to move
closer.
closer.
All right. Mayor requests that the ordinance be put on for final adoption at this meeting and that the second reading be by title only. Calls for a roll call. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Tubby?
Second reading by title only of ordinance number 2363, an ordinance amending chapter 116 of the Hermiston Code of Ordinances relating to mobile food vendors. Mr. Mayor.
Can I get a motion that ordinance number 2363 be adopted and become effective 30 days after adoption by the city council?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Councilor Barone, seconded by Councilor Harden, that ordinance number 2363 be adopted and become effective 30 days after adoption. Roll call.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
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 Motion passes 7-1. Councilor Linton in opposition. Resolution 2335, master fee resolution update, parade, right-of-way, and mobile vendors. Mr. Smith?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, you recently passed changes to street closures for both private events as well as street closure for parades or marches, processions. And then with the updates that you just adopted to the mobile vending, there's some new permit fees that need to be placed into the master fee schedule. So what's before you tonight is the the fees for street closures for private or community events, there's an application fee that's $25, and then that counts towards if a permit is issued, it will count towards their fee for the event, which would be $200. And then on these events, we find a lot of people don't plan ahead. And so there's an expedited permit if they're not within or outside of the 20 days. So it's a larger fee to try to, and it wouldn't necessarily count towards their permit. Trying to encourage them to apply within the longer time frame to give our staff time to evaluate and make recommendations. Then related to, on that permit fee, it's $200 for the first block and then $100 per additional block. And that would be based on, that's affecting a lot more potential street intersections and the need for additional barricades or other cones or whatever might be needed. And so for a longer section of the block, that would be a larger fee. Then for parades, again, an application fee with the same types of provisions. If a permit is issued, $50 for the 2 designated routes, $300 for the non-designated routes, and that one, because it takes a lot more upfront staff time to plan for how we would accommodate a non-designated route, plan for the staffing and so forth. And then for the 2 designated routes, $1,500 is the shorter route from basically either from here to the community center or the community center to here. And then the one that goes around the block, it's $2,000. And then for non-designated routes, 75% of all the costs. Then the final section, the mobile vending permits, 30-day license is $200, standard annual license is $700, event $50, and the lunch truck $300. So the one that we had, the type 2 was the one that we had before, and that was $500 before. And so it is a $200 increase. Again, it's been 8 years since it was put in place, so just kind of working towards kind of keeping those current with inflation and costs. Be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Smith, do the mobile food vendors also qualify as a business for a business license? So they
Yes.
also have to file that as well?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Yeah.
I'm just curious in regards to the permit fee and street closures, just to kind of get an idea of average size and monies that would be generated. How many streets do we typically are closed or are requested for?
I think
a block
most of them
party?
would fall under the $200. They're not necessarily multiple blocks long.
Counselor Myers?
And does that include security? As in, police officers that may have to?
No, that's, if a neighborhood wants to have a block party
Okay.
or
Okay.
what it includes is our staff taking out the barricades for them, and they would place them during the party or the event and then take them off, and then our staff going back out and bringing them back.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Yeah. Absolutely.
With the license, the vendors, are they to have them posted for the little small ones that are out on different street corners? Do they have?
Yeah, they would be more like the type 1, the 30-day licenses.
Okay, so every 30 days they would have to renew it.
Yes.
And then they also, like regular vendors, have to have it posted that they do have a license.
Yeah, I mean, they are required to be able to show that they have a license, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, Council? Any public comment on Resolution 2335? Yeah.
If someone doesn't get a license and someone, I guess, is going to be checking every so often to make sure that licenses are kept, is there a fee for not having the license? Like a penalty of some kind?
Yeah, there is a penalty in the ordinance, I believe.
Okay. I'm on page 16, so I don't know where it's at.
In the existing ordinance, under 11699, not having one is a Class C violation.
Yeah, so it's to get a citation, Class C violation, and what's the, what the,
Yeah,
well,
what's the,
165. So
okay.
there is
and
penalties, yes.
Just a ticket? No,
Yeah, they would get a ticket for $165.
$165. Okay, all right. And the liquor license, I think that's kind of low. That's just my opinion.
Are you,
For new licenses?
oh, we're limited. The state tells us how high we can do.
Okay,
That's all we can charge. The state charges much more than that, but that's
Okay.
all we can charge.
okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, council? Any other public comment? Okay. Can I get a motion to adopt resolution 2235 and lay it upon the record?
So moved. Second.
Who did the original?
Figured out.
Yeah, was that Counselor Peterson? No, who did the first motion? Counselor Duran? Okay, who did the second? Counselor McCarthy? Okay. It's been moved by Counselor Duran, seconded by Counselor McCarthy, that resolution 2335, master fee resolution, update parades, right-of-way, and mobile vendors be adopted and laid upon the record. Roll call.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Resolution number 2336, council rules adoption. Mr. Smith?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this item is, we've been talking about it for a number of months now. I do not have kind of a summary of the changes because we made a lot of different changes and we've gone through those over the last series of meetings. But basically, the reasoning behind most of the changes is to get to current practice, get to current law, and then a few of them are just adding some other best practices that were found as we took a look at other cities around the state. So I'd be happy to answer any questions or
Council, any questions?
any concerns.
I'd like to renew my request for the council to hold off on this ordinance until the next council, as it will apply more to them than this particular board.
Any other questions or comments? Yeah, Councilor McCarthy.
I'll counter that. I think it'd be actually more beneficial to have these in place so that they can be presented to the new candidates once elected, that because they don't have any expectation of what the rules are now, except that we meet currently every second and fourth Monday and have to make motions. So I think, especially with the crop of candidates who may have not had this kind of experience before, we may as well have the rules in place before they get in there, because they're not going to be as equipped, in my opinion, to make a decision about which rules work better for them or not.
And these rules are adopted on a fairly regular basis, or amended, I should say.
Can be.
No,
Yeah.
they haven't been, no.
Okay, so 2015, 16, 18, 20, I mean, that's pretty regular. And you could do it in 2025 if you want to.
Yeah.
In
Have a motion at
2026.
first meeting in January.
Yep.
Direct us to bring them back.
Any other comments?
can't seem to find it, but I think there was something in our rules about, I'm not sure it was on the code of conduct, but it was, I will agree or something like that if, like if we voted on an issue and like I disagreed or somebody else disagreed, that we have to all act like we agreed or consent or something like that.
Yeah, I think it says that in a couple places, but just, I mean, you act as a group. And so, you can dissent and you can, and have that discussion as you work together. And then once a decision is made, the city council made it and you're part of that group. And so, what it's saying is that everybody supports those things as a group and goes forward. You
Here
know,
it
you
is,
made your
page
case.
35. I think this is it. Page 35, if anyone wants to look that up, because I understand that we're working as a group and all of that, but I don't want to pretend like I'm for something when I'm not. And if I vote against it, I'm not for it. And then it's gonna pass and it's gonna take place anyway. So I don't, to me, that's like, I can think of an old way of saying it, two-faced. But I don't feel like I should have to, if we were out and, or say we're being interviewed by the newspaper or something and they wanted to know, well, they voted as 7-1. How do you feel about it? Well, this is the reason I didn't vote for it if I was to respond to that. And I don't feel I should have to, okay, as a group, well, okay, yeah, we're gonna do it, be all happy about it. I mean.
Well, no, I mean, I think in that situation, you can absolutely be able to say, I voted for it or I voted against it because of X, Y, Z. I didn't,
Mhm.
but, as it kind of then moves forward and it gets implemented, that I think this is getting at more talking bad about it in the community. Yeah, those dirty scoundrels, they shouldn't have implemented, they shouldn't have voted for that kind of a thing. And just, just kind of supporting the process that, I had a chance I said my piece and they voted against it, but, that's what the council did. That's what the city's position is now as a group. And so that's where we're going. I don't think it's saying that you have, given up your ideas or anything like that, but as a group, the council said, yeah, we're going a certain direction, and that's where we're going.
Okay.
Yeah, Counselor Carthy.
I would just like some clarification. I'm not entirely sure which rule or which section Councilor Linton is referring to, except for that she said yes, but I'm not entirely sure I understand exactly what you're referring to on page 35.
Maybe number 8.
So just as to quote it, it says, "I will protect the integrity of the process more than the rightness of my position. I'll fight hard for my issue, but then unify behind the governing body when the decision is made, because the decision was made with integrity of process, even if I disagree with the outcome." I just want to clarify that's the point you're trying to refer to?
I believe that's the one.
Perfect.
I haven't read all, but yeah.
Perfect. Just from my understanding. Thank you.
That's the one I would have expected that you were talking about. I didn't want to speak for you, but
No,
is that
that's fine.
accurate?
Yeah, that was pretty
Okay.
accurate.
Any other comments about adoption of council rules? Seeing none. How about public comment on council rules? Adoption, resolution 2336. Okay. Can I get a motion to adopt resolution 2336 and lay it upon the record?
So moved.
Second.
Then moved by Counselor Duran and seconded by Counselor Myers that we adopt resolution 2336 and lay it upon the record. Roll call.
Yes.
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 No.
Yes.
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 Motion passes 7-1. Counselor Primer in opposition. Initiate transfer of a portion of Getman Road from county to city jurisdiction. Mr. Smith?
Yeah, Mr. Morgan will handle this item.
Mr. Morgan.
All right, so I apologize for adding an extra T in Getman on that slide. Just seeing if you're all paying attention, but
Getman.
it's really,
Getting.
Go get
I
And
guess,
good
yeah, we're gonna add the T when we get the. So, yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this evening talking about the jurisdictional transfer of a portion of Getman Road. There we go. So you can see here, all the colored areas there are located within the city limits. The area toward the bottom there is Getman Road. You can see this Highway 207. This is Highway 395 through that section. That red line there, that's the existing paved portion of Getman Road.
That red line there is the existing right-of-way that was acquired here this past fall. So if we zoom in a little bit more to this area is where we're talking about. You can see that light blue line right there. So this is Highway 207, and that's Union Pacific Railroad line. So zooming in a little bit more closely, again, Highway 207 right there, the railroad over on this side, Armin Larvey Middle School to the north, the Wolf Run subdivision to the south. So currently, all of Getman Road right-of-way is in Umatilla County's jurisdiction. What's being proposed this evening is for all of the portion from Highway 207 to the railroad tracks would become owned by the city of Hermiston and under our jurisdiction, and all of the rest of the right-of-way would remain Umatilla County's jurisdiction. So the city and Umatilla County have had an agreement with Umatilla County for many years on how we handle transfer of ownership of roads. There's a lot of miles of Umatilla County roads within our urban growth boundary, and I think the county would be more than happy for us to take over all of those. But it's expensive to maintain roads, to plow them and rebuild them and keep the potholes off of them and crack fill 'em and all those types of things. So we have a pretty prescribed process for when we will accept ownership of roads. One of the main components in there being that in order for jurisdiction of a section of roadway to transfer from the county to the city, that transfer requires, among other things, to bring that section of the roadway up to city standard, which mainly includes adding curb, gutter, sidewalk, in some cases fully rebuilding the full depth of the roadway up to our city standard. There is an exception in that agreement to allow for us to accept roads that don't meet city standard, and that is if the section being transferred is more than a half mile in length and more than 2/3 of the properties that front onto that section of the road are located within city limits. So the problem that we have here is, again, the red section there is all of Getman Road that we can see. And the green shaded area, that is the current city limit boundaries. Again, that's the Wolf Run subdivision you can see there. And this stretch from here to there, that's a little less than a half mile. It's about 0.42 miles. And it's just at about 50% within the city limits. So it doesn't quite meet the threshold of that 2/3 of the properties fronting being within city limits. But Hermiston School District's student home builder project is looking to essentially mirror their development on Angus down onto this portion that they own that fronts onto Getman Road. And so the problem being that Umatilla County has taken the position over the past several years that Umatilla County doesn't have a stormwater permit with the state of Oregon. Therefore, they can't construct or allow to be constructed curbs and gutters on their roadway. They can't collect rainwater once it falls on the road and collects into a gutter. They would require a permit. They would need a permit for that from the state. So they say, well, we can't allow the school district to build that subdivision to include curb, gutter, and sidewalk because we don't have a permit. We would allow them to proceed building if you just put in a borrow pit and let the rainwater run off and don't have any sidewalks there. So that's the challenge that we have. And that's ultimately why we're recommending that the city take over ownership of that portion of roadway, and then we would be able to require the installation of curb, gutter, and sidewalk. I think is really the important portion that most folks would recognize needing sidewalk along that section of roadway moving forward. Again, just kind of to give you a sense of what that looks like for us in terms of cost of taking over that section and really how we go about paying for those things. So all city street maintenance revenues for maintaining our streets, sweeping the streets, crack filling, doing all those types of things, that comes from our portion of the state gas tax revenue. So cities don't directly receive gas tax when you go pump, gas at the gas station. The state collects all of that, and then through a number of formulas, they disperse that to cities across the state, cities and counties, and ODOT. And so for cities, our portion is based on a per capita, so it's roughly tied to our population. So last fiscal year, we received a little under $1.6 million in state shared gas tax revenues for maintaining our roads. works out to about a little under $80 per person, or if you were assuming 2.5 people per single family home, about $200 per year for a single family home. On the county side of things, they receive money from the state shared gas tax revenue based on road miles and some other things associated with that. I think the county's, concern is a lot of the folks that live in the county, but right next to the city, they have higher levels of expectation for level of service than somebody that lives on a county road, clear out in Helix or something like that. So it tends to be a challenge, and that's kind of where we have some gear grinding sometimes with road maintenance issues when the city limits are butting up against the county. Also important to keep in mind, I think this is always interesting, the dynamic that we have going on here. I'm showing 2016 just because that's the last year that we have really good numbers from Portland State on population within the urban growth boundary. So in 2016, the population within the city limits, all of the shaded colored areas there, was a little under 18,000, but the total population within the urban growth boundary, so all of the population within that yellow line there, was a little over 21,000 population. So that meant, I've referred to this at times in the past, that's kind of the donut ring that surrounds the city. There's almost 4,000 people that live outside of the city limits, but inside of the urban growth boundary. So I mean, that's essentially like having all of Stanfield and Eagan living within our urban growth boundary, but not living within the city limits, which means for all intents and purposes, those folks use City of Hermiston streets for most of their daily needs, going to the grocery store, going to work, going to school, those types of things. But they're not paying property tax to the City of Hermiston. They're not paying utility bills to the City of Hermiston. They're not, doing a lot of those types of things. So important to keep that dynamic in mind and why we kind of have that. We're sensitive to this topic in this position. So that was all just to kind of give you some, again, background on that. But again, where ultimately all boils down to what we're talking about this evening and why I think we feel comfortable granting this specific exemption on this specific instance. It's relatively close to that half-mile standard. It's rare that we do get that close to that large of a distance. It's just under half mile, and it's about 53% of it is already within the city limits. So there's about 50 homes in the Wolf Run subdivision that, like I mentioned, there's 4,000 people that drive on city streets every day but live out in the county. There's 50 houses there that they literally can't leave their, neighborhood without driving on the county road currently. So, the challenge again being with the student home builder project coming online, really the options are either we accept just a borrow pit and no sidewalk out there, or we stall out the development for the school district. So ultimately, I think we feel comfortable accepting this jurisdictional transfer in this specific instance, but we may face other instances where it comes up in the future, and we may want to push back a little bit more on a jurisdictional transfer on those. So with that, we'd recommend we have an agreement with Umatilla County that was included in the agenda packet this evening that carries us through this process to go with the jurisdictional transfer. So we'd recommend that you approve that agreement this evening.
Mark, does the Wolf Run addition side of the street already have curb, sidewalk, gutter?
It does.
Okay. So this would be just extending it on the north side of the street as well?
Correct.
Except for the county side that's outlined there.
When the school district develops, it would just be on the portion that they're developing.
Yeah, okay. And the status of that Getman Road, I know when the school district went in, they had to make some significant improvements to that road. Is that up to city standards currently, or are we gonna have to put some money into it to get it up to that standard?
Well, so the portion right there that fronts onto Wolf Run, that was improved when Wolf Run went in, and when the school district's development goes in, they will have to do some asphalt widening and those types of things. But outside of that, where those have actually been developed, it's essentially just a chip sealed section of gravel road. So it is not truly up to city standards for the full length out there. It's hard surfaced, but it's not fully up to what our city standard would be in terms of base depth and those types of things.
And we can't ask our partners to bring it up to city standards before we accept it?
Well, that's part of the challenge that we face. So, and again, on this one, we're already at, 50% within the city limits, and that's in our joint management agreement. That's the threshold we've set is a half mile or 2/3 that's already within the city limits. So on this one, I think we felt okay accepting.
And if we do accept it, we can leave it as it is, or we're gonna have to put money into it to get it up to speed?
Eventually, we would probably have to put some some dollars into it. But again, most of it through here has already been developed to a city standard. When Wolf Run went in, you can see it almost went all the way out. You know, it passes past the school district's property there. So all that the school district has to do is some infill paving for most of their frontage and then develop the rest of it out to this section here. So the only portions that wouldn't be fully developed to city standard are maybe 20% of that length.
Other questions, Councilman? Yeah, Councilor Brown?
Question, is this going out to the stop sign railroad tracks or?
Yeah, so right now, that right there is where the railroad tracks are located. So what we would be taking over is jurisdiction from 11th Street, Highway 207, up to the railroad county right of, or the railroad's right of way.
Yeah, that cursor is not visible.
I know, sorry.
Light is not working.
I can see it from here.
Yeah.
Okay.
None of us over
But,
here.
but
can-
we're the ones that need to
I
see
know,
it.
and I can't point it onto that one. Really doesn't show up.
See the pointer?
Yeah, so if you see on the slide there where it says county with the red arrow, and you can see that wide swath that kind of goes
That's the railroad.
north south,
right,
that's the railroad right of way.
starting right there.
So where that purple line ends, that would be the edge of the railroad right of way. And we purposefully wanted to set it up that way just because, you know, rail crossings get to be extremely expensive. And so, yeah, that's where we have it stopping currently.
Good, okay. A follow-up. I don't know if this is still like, or I guess this question should wait until, I guess we further develop down the line, but I know this is a part of the great project. And I'm gonna ask about speed limits, because now half of it's city, half of it's county. I guess just to answer my question, at some point in the future, do we assume that it's gonna be all city and city limits, or is there gonna be a difference in speed limits there?
Well, it would be, I believe right now out there, it's 25 miles an hour, at least up to the stop sign. There was a speed zone issue here recently, but past that, it's all Umatilla County.
I appreciate the map too. Now it makes a lot more, I know we're doing the sidewalk infilling program, and I know some of those homes out there don't have sidewalks, but it makes sense they're in the county, so.
Yeah, and again, that's kind of that's an interesting, I'm not even gonna try and show my cursor now. So I can see it from here, but I guess
Yeah.
maybe you guys, but, so you can see the neighborhood that's in the unincorporated portion of the county up there that's outside of the city limits. You know, that's a perfect example of one of the challenging areas that we probably would really push back on the county because, you know, those are all fully already developed homes. Like those are not going to develop down into a subdivision and it makes sense to, okay, well, there's going to be 50 homes that come in. It's like, you know, it's already developed. If you want to have a city street, then you need to annex into the city and pay tax to the city. So that's one where we'll slowly see it annex over time.
Thank you.
That's a battle for a different time.
Mhm. Any other questions from the council? Any public comment on the initiation of transfer of a portion of Getman Road from the county to the city? Roberts, you're the last two.
You are the.
All right. Can I get a motion to accept the proposed agreement made by Umatilla County?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Councilor McCarthy, seconded by Councilor Harden, that we initiate the transfer of a portion of Getman Road from county to the city jurisdiction. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. July 2024 financial report, Mr. Smith.
Yeah, Mr. Palacios.
Good evening, Mayor and councilors. Thank you. So first full month of the 30 days into the new fiscal year, so woo-hoo, lights are still on, so that's a good thing. There's not much discussion for the Hermiston Renewal Agency as far as budget-wise. And that's because property tax dollars haven't come in and those kinds of fundings haven't come in yet.
I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I didn't really want you to hear me, so. But as far
Talking
as the
about money,
HERA
we want to hear it.
the HERA budget, we're just a full month in, so there's not much there to talk about. We have the North Hermiston Urban Renewal Area, which is the First Street project. So that's beginning surveying of the project area and moving on to design and then for bid in beginning of 2025, is my understanding. As noted, this is the first month of the 2025 fiscal year. Monthly revenues are above projections, and with it only being 1/12 of the year, it's kind of, not that it doesn't mean anything yet, but it's kind of early to really see any kind of patterns. But we're $97,000 above, oops, I'm sorry. $97,000 above projection for the month of July, and that has to do with the changing of a couple of how we handle transfers from other funds to the general fund. We do it semi-annually now instead of on a quarterly basis. Monthly expenditures for the month are $189,000 below expectation, which is never a bad thing. There's a couple of departments that are above, and that's mostly due to annual expenditures made in July, licenses, et cetera, insurance for the airport. Bulk of activity occurs seasonally. We've got the pool, recreation, parks, and parks maintenance, and then the Harkin Writer Center and Community Center. Those are all having the bulk of their activity in the spring and then now over the summer. So although I understand the pool's coming up to the end of the season here pretty quickly. Bulk purchases, again, airport does large purchases of fuel, and that's why you'll see this trend down. And so we'll see those over expenditures start to drop as we move throughout the fiscal year. The next one. For utility and street funds, actual expenditures are over projected in streets, utility, and regional water funds. And again, this is mostly due to those annual type expenditures they pay for licensing. And then how we do internal transfers from these funds to the general fund for administrative expenses and overhead allocation. So with that, I will take any questions on this and then turn it over to Mr. Smith for the capital portion.
Yeah, Ignacio, can you come back to the utility fund and explain the 50% variance on the expenditure side? What was that?
50% on the utility expenditures?
It says utility fund, 06 fund, it's 531,000 over.
What page is that?
Oh, yeah, that's page
9.
9.
Page 9.
9,133 of the total packet.
Oh, okay.
And again, that has to do with how it's going against the projection, which is based on the 3-year average, which I'm gonna, as I look at these and start doing a 5-year forecast, that will change. So that variance appears worse than it is because of just how that projected year to date was calculated based on the 3-year average.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yeah, Councilman.
Okay, I'm on the other one. That's goes only up to page 16, but on page 4. And that's the general fund resources and expenditures. I liked it better when we actually did it from from this, where we could follow along and see it as we talk about it and ask questions. But the property taxes, is that it says a negative 100 variance, is that because of the property taxes hasn't come in, or?
Correct, that is correct. That's just
Okay.
timing. Mhm.
And then the license and franchise says negative 25%.
And again, this has to do with, and I will be changing the model that we use, because the 3-year average, it doesn't, because of the ebbs and flows as we go from each year and how that averages out, can throw the projection out of whack. And then when you're comparing it to the current year number for 1 month, it can really make it look bad or good, depending on how that average falls.
Okay. And also it says here, other revenue, when it's vague like that, can it be more specific on different things like expenditures instead of just saying other revenue or
Well, I mean,
miscellaneous?
well, the reason why we choose that, because it's made up of 25 different lines. And so giving you exactly all those is just, I mean, it would just make these kind of slides. I mean, we're trying to summarize information. So that's why we have the major categories: property taxes, licenses and franchise, fees, fines, interest, others that are the major categories. And then those other revenues are just a whole bunch of items put together.
And that includes that transfer number that I was speaking to a little bit earlier. about how we changed it from a quarterly transfer to semi-annual to the general fund.
Okay. And with the fuel costs, it's been probably over a year to where it's always a negative. Because I've been asking about it a few times and it's depending on when it's bought and when it's sold, but I have never seen it in the positive. So when is that going to change or what's going
Well,
on with that?
Well, the thing we have to remember is we're taking a projection of what we think annual or monthly expenses would be based on the past 3 years, or right now, 3 years. We're looking to change that. So with fuel, it's always at the airport is the one that causes the problems, is we don't always buy the fuel in the same month. So, you know, this year we might have bought it in July, but the past 3 years we might have bought it in June or in May. And so that projection, you know, you average those 3 years and you come up with a number of, well, typically we've spent X in July. With that kind of a number, it's a big purchase, and so it really throws that number out of whack in an average type of situation like that. So one of the things that to be clear about is that just because it's a negative on this against the projection doesn't mean we've overspent the budget. It doesn't mean we've spent more than we planned to. It's just comparing, you know, an annual cycle of how we spend money and how we get money. And so that's what makes this a little bit different than just, this is not, we're overspent by 25%, right?
Correct.
Ignacio?
That is correct.
Counselor Brown?
I'm curious, Mr. Palacios, you brought up about the 3-year average and about going away from that. We've heard on the council why we should do a 3-year average. Can you tell me why we're going to switch that approach and go something different? I'm just curious.
Well, I wouldn't throw out the entire model. What I want to do is look at it more organically. It maybe more on a department level, but how we're adopting the budget at that level, materials and services or personnel. And then it could be the average is the right picture, but I'd want to look at each of those indicators and then take that against and then explain to the council what my rationale is behind changing that more specific number. Because like Mr. Smith says, is that when you have these bulk purchases, it depends on timing on where they land.
Yeah.
And so specifically in the airport is a good example because we just happened to pay for the fuel in July.
Thank you.
Counselor Linton?
Page 6. There's a lot of red on page 6, so. We've already discussed the airport with the fuel, so I'm guessing that's why it's like that. But then we have building inspection, transportation, parks and utility landscaping, the pool. Library's not bad, so I won't ask you about that one. And then the Harkin Writer Center, is that with Harkin Writer, is that because of the works that's going on right now with Harkin Writer?
Well, that would be tracked, that's tracked in capital, which isn't in here. This would be in a different fund. But to address the two questions about the pool and the Harkin Writer Center, which is what's going on in the other ones, the building inspection and transportation, is specifically that averaging and then timing of purchases and then the timing of the seasonality, specifically for the pool. The bulk of the activity occurs in July, August, May, and June. And so you're going to have a spike in expenses during those months. And then my expectation is that they'll start to flatten out and drop off because we don't use the pool, for example, in the winter. All that activity will die off. We have a lot of part-time staff out in the pool, for example, right now, running the pool, and the lifeguards, et cetera. So I would expect that to be higher than usual. But again, it goes back to that averaging.
And for example, in the building inspection area, this is probably only the first, if we look back 2 of the 3 years we're looking back to, we weren't fully staffed in the building inspection area. And so now we've averaged, and so it looks like we're over because what we've actually expended was less than our budget because we couldn't hire the positions, and so we weren't fully staffed. And so that's the example in that. And then on the transportations one, that one has changed. You know, and I don't want to overstep on Mr. Palacios. This is more of a historical thing that he's not aware of all of the kind of ins and outs that we've had over the past years. But transportation, which is mostly our taxi service and bus service, those all have changed. We've had increases in costs that weren't in those past 3 years that we're averaging. So now it looks like we're way overspending when it's just costs have gone up versus our average. And we've budgeted for those increased costs, particularly in transportation and
Correct.
others.
And I've talked about this in the, I think, last two council meetings. I want to move away from this model. It's the way the reports look. We're looking at moving into the OpenGov system that we use to present the financial reports that will be a lot more live and give us a lot more data that will actually make sense instead of this looking, all you see is the large red numbers and they don't look good. But,
Thank you.
mhm.
Other council questions? Mr. Smith, you had capital projects. Ignacio,
Yeah,
you're
if
gonna
you could
talk?
go to the next slide. So we have a number of projects that are in design right now. Gear and Harper realignment. We've submitted again to the Union Pacific to see if they'll agree with our design. Also working on well 6 and well 4 on different projects there that are with Anderson Perry being designed. Then if you've tried to drive east of here, you've seen the construction on Gladys. It's going to move into Maine and Newport as we go through this summer and the fall. Then over at the Teen Adventure Park, if you notice, the sidewalk is completed out in front of it. So that basically this phase is completed. The hangar replacement, the taxi lane has been constructed, and we're waiting for the contractor to start construction on the actual hangars. And then last meeting, we were downstairs, saw the IT build out in City Hall. Again, we're waiting for light fixtures. Talked to them today, and we still don't have even a ship date of when those fixtures are coming. Harkenrider Center, they've been working on soundproofing the ceiling. That was one of the issues we really wanted to make sure, because if we wanted to have 2 events going on at the same time, we need to have a little better sound barrier. So that's the part they're working on right now. Then the barn expansion project has been completed. It was able to be used at the fair for those who were there. And then after the fair, there'll be a project to put some concrete in in the small animal barn. Then on the Ark, the roof and some electrical work were completed. We're waiting on windows. We're going to replace all the windows and redo siding. We've had some interaction with the State Historic Preservation Office that wants us to do certain things, so we're kind of revamping what we're doing with the siding. And it actually might be less costly as far as just going in and replacing the siding that needs it and not doing all of it, which we were planning to do before. Then the Public Safety Center, the Phase 1, the renovation of the former court space is on target to finish on schedule. And what will happen is we'll move record staff into that where the court was, and all of our evidence will go in there. And then the rest of the building will be vacated for Phase 2 construction, and that's when patrol and the other officers will move into the ARC building. We just met with the contractors this morning, working on final numbers, anticipate starting that Phase 2 construction October 1st. And so the police department will be moving sometime during the month of September. Be happy to answer any questions.
Council, any questions? No? Okay. Any public comment about the July 2024 financial report? Okay, can I get a motion to accept the July financial report?
So, second.
Been moved by Councilor Primer, seconded by Councilor McCarthy to accept the July financial report. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. We're now on to committee reports. Any city committee or liaison reports? No one? No meetings this last couple weeks. Okay. Moving on to the mayor and council reports. Just want to say I had a good time at Melon Fest. What is it called? Melon Fest, right? Yeah. Got to join in the watermelon seed spitting contest. Yeah. Took third.
What?
Yeah, beat Counselor Primer. That was the important part. Yeah, lost to the long-standing champion, I guess, from last year or something. The guy, like, I don't know, just practices this thing. I think. He was 10 feet at least farther than me.
He hit the cone.
What's that?
I think he hit the cone.
I think he put it up into the, wind or something, but yeah, it was out there a ways. So anyway, that was fun. Music was great. It was well attended. There was a lot of people, a lot of booths. I was really impressed with how many booths were down there, and great turnout. So Melon Fest, Downtown Association, Chamber, City, did a great job. I enjoyed watching the bathtub races again. That's always entertaining. And so good job, Melon Fest. I spent last week doing some more League of Oregon Cities presidential regional meetings. So I was in Lincoln City on Wednesday, and Thursday I was in North Bend, again, going around to all 12 regions of the state. And then just wanted to remind you that on Thursday, the legislature's Transportation Committee will be here from 5 to 7. And I would encourage you to come and participate in the ability to speak to the concerns and issues of transportation dollars and how important it is that our city continues to have resources so we can provide streets. We just talked about it for our constituents, fill in the potholes. Those resources seem to be dwindling, and we've got to find out new pathways to have revenues that are still coming back to our communities, because it is our major form of revenue for street maintenance. Not a lot of folks realize that that's a declining fund, and ODOT also has some significant challenges facing them, and they're an important partner, especially when it comes to weather and keeping our streets clean, plowed, iced, de-iced, and sanded. So whether it's inside our city or the highways that go around us, they're an important part of how we function during the year. So making sure that you're voicing your comments of how important it is to continue to fund ODOT fully, I think would be important to hear from you. So if you can be there, that would be great. Sign up for testimony right at 5 o'clock to make sure you got time to testify. All right, anything else from the council? Councilor Barone.
I just wanted to thank the council. Thanks for holding down the fort. I was open house today. Kids are getting back into the swing of things, so appreciate you guys excusing my tardy.
Yep. Yeah, you and Councilor Duran.
Just this once.
Promise, that's the last one.
Councilor McCarthy, I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, just, I'm sure most of you have probably received this from Val, who passed it on through Lily, but at Advantage Wellness as a ribbon cutting on September 5th. So just join the chamber for that in the evening right out here.
Say that again.
And Advantage Wellness right here on Main Street.
Advantage Wellness,
Yeah,
okay.
they'll have a ribbon cutting on September 5th.
Yep, September
5th.
Okay, yes. Did I see Councilor Duran? Were you gonna say something? No.
No, I wasn't.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, Mr. Smith?
Yeah, so a couple of things. First, we have 6 candidates filed for the 4 council seats, and we have one more day tomorrow until 5 o'clock.
Last day to sign up?
Right. I also wanted to just let you know, in conjunction with the public hearing that'll be in the evening, both Mr. Morgan and I will be participating in different ways in some different things that that committee is doing throughout the day. They're going to take a tour of the region. ODOT invited us to ride along on that tour and give them some of the things that we've been working on and some of the things that we see as important in the transportation funding realm. And then there's another forum in the afternoon that I'll be participating in with that committee. So trying to express our needs for funding and those types of things. And then we have a video that Parks and Rec put together about Melon Fest. I thought it was good. I thought the council should see it. It's on our YouTube channel if you want to go check it out later. But
Right on.
yes.
That's a change.
Go to the line now. Just saying.
See if they're making it, they're gonna go around the outside of those cones.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah,
Very
that's
well
it.
done. So I think probably should thank Waltzley Farms and Bellinger Farms. And I know those two, I saw their bins out there. I don't know how many other watermelon growers participated, but they were giving away free watermelon all day. So it was pretty awesome. Good time. Anything else, Mr. Smith?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, we do have an executive session this evening. So we are going to recess. The City Council of the City of Hermiston will now meet in executive session in the executive session room on the first floor for the purpose of discussing matters pertaining to the review and evaluation of employment-related performance of the city manager. The executive session is held pursuant to ORS 192.6602I, which allows the council to meet in executive session for the purpose to review and evaluate pursuant to standards, criteria, and policy directives adopted by the governing body. The employment-related performance of the chief executive officer of any public body, a public officer, employee, or staff member, unless the person whose performance is being reviewed and evaluated requests an open hearing. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are excluded. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No final decision may be made in executive session. At the end of the executive session, the council will return to open session, which the audience may attend. The executive session will last approximately 15 minutes.
The first floor?
All right, we are going to reconvene the Hermiston City Council meeting for August 26th as we come out of executive session where we were in consideration of reviewing the city manager's employment contract. And so, council, is there anything you would like to speak to or say or? Well, I will say something. Ms. Smith, thank you for 10 years of service to our city. You've grown as a leader. You've held our organization together. All the leadership within our organization has stayed on board, which is often a sign that they like working for you. Got great reviews from your staff. We got great reviews from the council. Seems like our city's going in a great positive direction. I love living here. I'm sure the rest of you love living here and the things that we're doing. And you're a big part of that. So I just want to say thank you and looking forward to more years of service.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for the chance to have this review and to be here another year, and grateful for the things that we're able to do here. It's a great place.
Okay, I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion to, okay, so you're motioning to approve the changes to the city manager employment contract. Okay, it's been,
Yes,
yes, as
affirmative.
presented. Counselor Barone motioned, Counselor Myers seconded that we approve the changes to the city manager employment contract. Any other conversation? No public comment? Okay, roll call.
Yes.
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 No.
Yes.
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 Motion passes 7-1. Counselor Primer in the dissent. All right, anything else, Mr. Smith?
That's it.
All
Thank
right,
you.
we are adjourned. Yes, we didn't say that.
I heard you say that we had that.